Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I got a bunch of things to get to here. Joe Biden giving out crack pipes. His son Hunter also, and his deals with China. A little bit more to do with Alec Baldwin, just a little brief leftover stuff that's kind of interesting and a little bit funny. And then, some other things I can't even remember it all. The other thing is Chris Cuomo wants to get paid. This is all kind of bombshell stuff. I mean, it's big stuff. If it wasn't 2022, I'll cover this later as we go through it. But it's all kind of big. It's kind of disturbing. But it is 2022, and then I talk about WW3. But I think there's big stuff coming. So one of my viewers sent me this, and it's an interview with Bob Saget and Kelly Rizzo, his widow. And I wasn't going to cover it at first, but he says something at the end and does something at the end that's so offensive and so messed up. Like, I'm glad I watched it to the end because I was like, I just want to move on. I don't want to do any more Bob Saget stuff. And I just want to put it in the grave, so to speak. But this stuff at the end that I'm going to get to, let's start off here. So they're in a restaurant in Chicago, a place that Bob Saget regularly frequents when he's traveling. And it starts off with him, with his usual inappropriate jokes that aren't funny, right? So he says this, first of all.
I make a pit stop.
A spread like this.
I love a pit stop right at the curb, and then I come here for a spread.
Okay.
And that's a fake laugh she gives him. So she says that he makes a pit stop when he comes to this place. And then he says, I make a pit stop right at the curb, which means he goes to the bathroom on the curb. And then he comes into the restaurant, which is gross and not funny. And he looks at her and she has to give him a mercy laugh, right? Which kind of illustrates what their relationship's all about. So then they have a little oyster banter, right? Where he makes kind of some weird, sexual innuendos.
Yeah.
And then you loosen it up.
Loosen
I
it
don't
up.
need to tell you this. You know this stuff.
How do you eat? How do you use a fork?
You put the food.
She looks a little bit like Jodie Sweetin. I just noticed this, the middle daughter. She's around the same age. So that's a little bit weird.
Food in your mouth, but I thought you were going to slurp.
I don't want to slurp.
You don't want to?
No,
okay, well.
because it ruins my mouth for other people.
Like, what does that even mean?
She's like, what does that even mean? That's a Jodie Sweetin expression. Like, that's, she's tired of his jokes. He's on her show. This is her eat, pray, rock, whatever, eat, love, eat something. Eat, travel, rock.
Nothing.
Okay.
This is so
it's a weird sort of sexual innuendo. And then she says, okay, right? So, he has a lot of jokes that she doesn't even laugh at. So then he had this song, which I covered on his HBO special, His Dog Licked His You-Know-Whats. And he's talking to her about this here and, writing of the song. And there's a little bit of this kind of uncomfortable banter where she's not laughing at his jokes.
And my dog was a King Charles Spaniel. His name was Alan. And I named him after my dentist. And he came over and just nuzzled me in the groinal area. And I said, Alan, you got to stop that boy. It was about 2 hours he had been doing that. And,
so what a weird thing to say, and her weird, uncomfortable laugh, right? And then he wrote a song about that. But this is the part at the end.
because what I said at the top was that these are like babies, and I want to just prove
The shrimp are like babies. This is what he's saying, that the shrimp that he has on a fork is like a baby. He just said that, right? This ghoulish MNFer.
my point here, if I could. I'm going to take this little shrimp,
Oh, no.
and I'm going to treat it just like I would a baby.
He's going to treat it just like a little baby. She's laughing uncomfortably.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the little shrimp.
Oh, God.
He's, wrapping it up like he's swaddling it.
And get his little baby head out.
Okay, well, you do that.
Hold on a second. Now I'm going to feed him. This is just like a little tiny shrimp baby. And what you do...
Again, they would say he was just joking, but it's not funny. And, what is he doing here, right? I mean, this has been rumored around Hollywood, all these kind of things. this type of behavior, and he's modeling this in a way that is, you know, nobody would say this is funny. It's not, you know, he's not funny. Like, he's not funny. He's not a funny person.
To feed him, I can eat a spoon. Here we. I'll just use a fork. And get a little bit of the sauce. You just feed him right in his mouth there.
So it's like blood on top of it, right?
And just a cute
Never
little,
a dull moment, folks.
And with that, I'm gonna put him to bed soon.
Cheers.
And, you know, like, she's not laughing, like, just that these kind of laughs that you do that you don't want to, you know, leave a person doing something that's clearly creepy. And so you cover it by laughing and trying to, you know, de-creepify it by making, oh, it's just a joke, let's laugh.
Cheers,
I
Shrimpy.
love my baby. People, don't eat your babies. People, don't eat your babies. People, don't eat your babies.
And then her profile picture comes up. You can't see it there, but she's holding up the devil's horns. You know, that's on her YouTube channel. As he says, people don't eat your babies, right? Like, and looks at the camera. Who's laughing at this? Why would this be funny?
And there you have it, folks.
This has been Kelly Rizzo.
And so, you know, people don't eat your babies. I don't know. Do I need to say anything else about it, right? Let's just move on. Well, that's Bob Saget with his former wife, who's now, you know, looking to be relevant on her own. I have a couple of leftover things here to do with Alec Baldwin, just some quick little things. And I realized last night, you know, this compilation I have where Alec Baldwin says this.
For example, my wife's on the phone with her hairdresser or her friend. She's like, really? Okay, I can't wait to see you. That's going to be great. Fantastic. What time? 12 o'clock? My wife is from Spain. And she said...
And him saying there that his wife is from Spain, which either he never talked to her and he knows nothing about her upbringing and her childhood or family, or she lied to him, because she's certainly not from Spain, right? I mean, none of the stuff that they've been saying is true. She doesn't have any Spanish ancestry. She didn't ever live in Spain, you know, vacation there, maybe, sure. But her family, her parents are really English white, old English white, Scottish and English, and her ancestors. And they're very pale-looking people. Thomas and Hayward are their last names. But she never grew up in Spain, right? When you say my wife is from Spain, that means that she grew up in Spain, that she grew up as a Spanish person in Spain, right? Like, my wife wouldn't say, my husband's from Italy. I grew up in Connecticut, right? She grew up in Boston. And so I would assume he's just lying, and he's, you know, really, I mean, much as a problem as she is, because he really is into this. He says it over and over again. Of course, there's the I and the stuff he does as well.
Well, we're having a baby. How about that for a project?
Ay.
Cravings here, okay.
Sí. Ay. Sí. Ay. Sí.
But saying she grew up in Spain is an out-and-out lie, and he's clearly into it. Like, he's been into it all along. I've talked about this before. People have speculated that he was in love with Selma Hayek, and she didn't want anything to do with him, so he got a, you know, knockoff or whatever. You know, but, like, this deception and this self-deception, and then when they got caught, you know, these videos are out there. Of course, there's no real media. I mean, not real news. But this is, you know, pretty flagrant lying. Like, it's just out and out lying, you know. Another thing I forgot, or two things I forgot that Alec did. Look at, he's very pleased with himself here. He said a few things that I didn't catch when I made the original video, and then when I was editing, I thought about it, but it was after you know, I was running late, so I decided to address it today. And one thing was a comment that somebody left on my video. And so he starts talking about working with various crew members in his new epic movie in England.
And young. Everybody's young. And they work hard. The crew
of movies are hardworking people. They're very hardworking, on their feet all day. In an unheated building, I might add. The building had no heat.
The building has no heat. Then he coughs here. He has made it to the big time. He is an actor who is now working in an unheated set. That it's such a low-budget movie. He's got to fly over from New York to England and be in some crappy hotel room he's not willing to show you here. He's got his Mickey Mouse ears, big, giant, colossal cursor nose. And it's in an unheated building. They can't afford heat. Like, I'm making a movie, a video right now, and I'm in a heated room. I'm in a heated building. I'm as low budget as you can get. And I still got heat, right? I mean, think about this. Once A-list actor now is relegated to movies in a foreign country where they can't even afford heat in the middle of February, in a cold place, right? He pointed it out that it was uncomfortable that these guys were working in an unheated building. And so that's where Alec has fallen to in his celebrity status. And then at the end, one of my viewers pointed this out when he was missing his kids, and he said this.
For a few more days. And then who knows what the future will bring. I hope good things. But I get to go home and see all my little people. And one big person. Well, she's not very big. In fact, she's not big at all. She's kind of tiny.
She's kind of tiny. Kind of like almost like a kid. Like, that just got weird and made one of my viewers uncomfortable in the comment section. I thought, yeah, it is kind of weird. He's talking about his childlike wife who is, seems to be 5'1", 5'2", and has that high childlike voice. And, there's just a lot of weirdness with the Baldwins. All right, let's move on to bigger and better things. Joe Biden and his son Hunter, his crackhead son Hunter, why the Biden administration is handing out free crack pipes. And I got this sent to me by numerous people, and every one of them thought it had something to do with Hunter. Hunter with his crack pipe here, his crack pipe here, and with all three of them. And so this is from Newsweek. The Biden administration will provide grant funding to pay for distribution of safe smoking kits as a part of an effort to reduce harm from substance abuse over the next 3 years. So they are trying to make drug addiction safer. Like, think about this, right? A number of conservative news outlets reported in recent days that the administration would fund the distribution of crack pipes for drug users as a part of a push to advance racial equality. So I'm in the editing stage, and I walked away from this and, made lunch, and my wife and I went for a walk, and I was thinking about this, and I was like, are you saying that white people have better, safer crack pipes than black people? Or are you saying that crack use is more prominent among the black community, African-American community? And why not give money for education? Why not reward people of color who are doing well academically and youthful people, young people who have, opportunities for advancement but can't afford college or can't afford a better college, right? Why not put more money into education and support those who are doing well instead of trying to make crack smoking safer? Like, it's just so bizarre. However, safe smoking kits are just one piece of the equipment on the list of 20 items of the Department of Health and Human Services outlined on the grant application in its harm reduction program. The primary purpose of the program is to reduce the risk of infection among drug users. I mean, come on, right? Like, it's just that insane. Like, it's got that crazy that fast. And the thing about it is, when I use drugs, like, I don't do anything, alcohol, drugs, anything like that, right? I eat healthy foods. But when I was younger, and I was more reckless, I wouldn't have cared about something like that, right? I mean, it's not like people who smoke crack are really worried about their health. Like it's just, once you're smoking crack, like, health is not your primary concern. Safety and reducing harm. But this is from the New York Post. There he is. There they are together. Hunter Biden sought forever deal with China military-tied firms, emails say, from his, when he handed over his hard drive, and he dropped off multiple hard drives because he was always dropping his computer in his tub or something, and he left them all over town because, he's reckless and he does a lot of harm, and no mainstream media is covering this, that JoJo Magoo has a crackhead son who impregnated a stripper and had a baby with a stripper named Dallas from Arkansas, which is just funny. Like every time I say it, I mean, it's a joke that, you don't even have to make a joke. You just state the facts. Hunter Biden tried to strike an exceedingly lucrative forever business deal with a state-owned Chinese firm company that since has been sanctioned by the U.S. over its ties to the Chinese military, according to the latest emails unearthed from his infamous laptop. The plan would have apparently also involved the then Prime Minister of Kazakhstan, who was arrested on suspicion of treason last month, following the ouster as head of the country's intelligence service. The emails date to April 14th, when Biden's dad, President Joe Biden, was vice president and had about a year before father and son apparently posed for a photo with a Kazakhstani official, Karim Massoff, in Washington, D.C. restaurant. So there they are here. Not a very great photo. Talking about Burisma that paid Biden as much as $1 million a year. And he was looking for this deal with this big Chinese firm. Already said that he got up to $30 million from various Chinese officials. So we now know why. Well, I want to talk about World War III in a bit. One more thing to add to that. But here it is. Chris Cuomo wanted as much as $60 million from CNN amid Jeff Zucker exit. Ousted CNN honcho Jeff Zucker and his secret mistress, Allison Goulust, made personal calls to Andrew Cuomo in 2020. This dude here. Chris Cuomo isn't backing down in his battle with CNN following the ouster of his boss, Jeff Zucker. The anchor intends to demand as much as $60 million settlement. It says here, he is prepared to demand not the $18 million left on his contract, but as much as $60 million. He wants Megyn Kelly money. One source said, Chris insists that he never did anything for his brother, Andrew, that Zucker didn't know about. His can't believe Zucker wasn't fired for inappropriate relation with Allison Goulust. Everyone knew about that and nobody cared. What he believes happened is Warner Brothers found something in their investigation into Chris, perhaps internal memos or documents, which revealed more about Zucker's involvement with Andrew Cuomo. Goulust was just a convenient excuse, which ironically happened to his brother. Remember, his brother Andrew was responsible for making a decision to put sick people with COVID in with the most vulnerable population in nursing homes, and it resulted in an extra 13,000 deaths, which he then covered up. And so that would have been, destroying New York level lawsuits, wrongful death lawsuits. And so they, quickly shifted it to him being sexually abusive with, sexually inappropriate with coworkers, right? Like that's how they got him out of there. But the real reason was the COVID stuff and maybe some other stuff as well, right? And he's saying, Chris Cuomo saying the same thing happened with him, that everybody knew at CNN about Chris Cuomo's conversations with his brother, but it was Jeff Zucker that was having conversations with his brother, maybe giving him information, who knows what. And CNN did an internal investigation that wasn't made public, and they decided to fire Chris as collateral damage and then fire Zucker for a relationship that everybody knew about, right? And so, yeah, things are getting spicy. And he says that his reputation is ruined and he was fired for, it says here, Chris is telling people in the Hamptons he was wrongly fired, humiliated, his career has been ruined, and he wants Megyn Kelly money, which she got $69 million. So things just keep on getting better for CNN, right? You know, just like Brian Stelsa says.
The information wars are raging. And I'm going to go a little bit rogue here, so bear with me, okay? Those people aren't watching CNN, but we're not going anywhere.
I want to talk about potentially World War III, and this is part of it. But just think about what I covered here today. And I woke up, and I didn't know any of this stuff. I wanted to do the Alec Baldwin stuff, like I had forgot some things. But everything else was brand new and was sent to me by other people. And there are a couple things I didn't get to cover that I'll either cover on this channel tomorrow or I'll cover in a video. Fauci saying that he's fine with the mask mandates being removed and COVID pandemic is, you know, coming to an end, right? So I'll get into that on my other channel today. But think about what I just covered here. So this comedian that was just recently died under weird circumstances, died in his sleep after having COVID and you know what. And he performed at a nightclub and then went home and then went to a hotel room and died, right? And he's considered the sweetest man in the world, according to his wife and his co-worker, John Stamos. He was celebrated by Hollywood and the news media as being this wonderful person. He was on this epic children's show where he was really inappropriate as a comedian, the dirtiest, grossest, most profane comedian. But then he played this sweet figure, his father figure on this show, right? And he just was out to dinner with his wife, who has her own like little YouTube Instagool type of, you know, TV show that she's trying to milk his celebrity and his fame. And they're in a restaurant. He picks up a shrimp and he says it's like a baby. He treats it like a baby. He swaddles it. He sticks cocktail sauce in what he calls its mouth, and then he eats it and then tells people not to eat babies. And this is, you know, a Hollywood celebrity. And then Alec Baldwin, who has been in this epic scandal of having a wife who pretended she was Spanish, and he shot a coworker, is relegated to doing films in a foreign country in the middle of the winter in unheated buildings. Like, that's how far he fell within a period of a year, when he was just, you know, last year at this time, he was, or a little bit before last year at this time, he was regularly making videos about mocking Trump, and he had a career, right? And then you have a president who is handing out free crack pipes. Like, just think about that. A president is giving away crack pipes to make it safer for crack users to smoke crack and drug users to use drugs. And he has a son who's a crackhead who got paid millions of dollars from foreign companies while he was smoking crack, while he was desperate. I mean, he described this in depth on Jimmy Kimmel. And he impregnated a stripper named Dallas, who lives in Arkansas. And she had a crack baby, you know, a stripper crack baby. And he dropped off a laptop that he dropped in a tub, forgot about it, and the information has been slowly released about him having business deals that compromise him and his father, specifically with China, that is set to overtake America as the #1 country, certainly the #1 economy. And so that's happened, right? Free crack pipes from the president. And then there was a news scandal where during a pandemic, right, like just think about hearing this 2, 3, 4 years ago, there was a governor in New York who had the worst death rate, but he was celebrated as a hero, and then it turned out that he made some poor decisions that cost people their lives, and they fired him, you know, after he had his own sort of, he won an Emmy, and he was celebrated on CNN by his brother, which was a conflict of interest, who was a #1 news anchor, number one news personality at the CNN network. And he's fired, and his producer's fired because he was trafficking children. And then the head of CNN is fired for what they consider a undisclosed relationship with one of his fellow coworkers, right? And none of this is like a shock to you, right? Like, this is just Tuesday. Like, I do this almost every day. Some days a little worse, some days a little more stuff, some whatever it is, right? But there's always something. And it's just like bombarded by like what would be considered unbelievable 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago. I mean, these were, any one of these things would be a story that would go on for months and big epic scandals and things. And the media isn't really covering most of this stuff, and nobody finds it shocking. And that tells you all you need to know about the collapse of America, potentially World War III or whatever it is. I mean, whatever causes the collapse of America, something's got to cause it, right? Because it's collapsing right now, morally, intellectually, spiritually. I mean, health, everything that we think about is getting worse. American life is getting worse. The kids are worse than, the teenagers, and teenagers are worse than the 20-year-olds, and the 20-year-olds are worse than the 30-year-olds, right? Weaker and less functioning, and, they don't have a future in front of them. I mean, it's just, completely breaking down. And this is what it looks like when a society collapses. It just, this is what it looks like. When a civilization, an empire is crumbling. This is, what happens at the end of something. This is what happens at the end of relationships. Too many problems you can't fix. This is what happens in marriages that collapse. Too many problems that are, unsolvable. Things that, you don't have the resources and the energy and the time to solve everything, right? This is what happens when somebody dies of old age, right? When their body no longer can fight off all the issues and problems. It's just one system. You have all these systems in your body, your respiratory system, your circulatory system, your digestive system, and all of these things start collapsing. One organ failure after another, and there's nothing that you can do. Your body just can't repair itself, and it just eventually dies. It's like a car that is totaled, right? The car, you fix one thing and something else breaks, and you fix that and then something else breaks. Before you know it, you realize you could have bought a whole new car and the thing still doesn't run well. Like, it's just over. Like, it's just something that, isn't going to work anymore. That's our system. This infrastructure bill that Joe Biden is passing isn't going to cover a fraction of the problems with the infrastructure. Even the, buildings and the highways and all these things are breaking down. It would be almost better to like level the whole thing and then start over because, it's too hard to fix everything. It's too expensive to fix everything. And so this is our civilization. There are too many problems to fix. And at its basis, it goes against the will of God. And that's why every day there's just some more like, things that used to be shocking are now just, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Bob Saget's talking about eating babies, and Alex Jones is psychologically crumbling, and the president's handing out crack pipes. And CNN, the number one news network in the world, is embroiled in scandal and incompetence. And then, tomorrow there'll be something else. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting for the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.